Welcome to the Conflict and War Studies channel. Today we will be talking on Iran, which is the hottest topic of the last 1 month. As you know, in Iran, there were protests which started with the bazaris, the shop owners, 1 month ago. Later on, these protests were joined by different groups and turned out to become violent protests in Iran, and Iranian security forces responded harshly, and that resulted in the loss of almost 6,000 people's lives. Nowadays, United States, Israel, and United Kingdom are preparing for a military operation against Iran. We cannot say that this operation is directly linked to the protests which took place in Iran. Israel had already had a plan to attack Iran, and United States, being the supporter of Israel, decided also to join this operation. Still, there are uncertainties whether this operation will be carried out or not. We will talk this issue with retired Brigadier General Hüseyin Fazda. He is a fighter jet pilot in background. He served in key positions in Turkish Armed Forces. He worked 6 years in NATO. He holds PhD in International Relations and Political Science. After retirement, he worked in Turkish aerospace industry both as a pilot and as a manager. He founded a strategic research center, which is a think tank in Turkey. He is now the director of this center as well. General, first of all, thank you very much for accepting my invitation to talk on this hot topic.
Thank you, General. I'd like to congratulate you about your YouTube channel, and I'm following your channel. That's a very great effort. Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to start by asking, why does the United States want to attack Iran?
Um, In short, nobody knows. We all know that the United States has signaled some potential military action against Iran and reflecting some of the assets nearby Strait of Hormuz and Indian Sea and some of the Gulf states area. There might be some reasons, in short, some immediate humanitarian crisis that Trump reiterated or talked about that kind of thing as a kind of red line for him to start a kind of operations against Iran. Also, United States, together with Israel, has some long-term strategic objectives. I would like to talk about those issues in four groupings. We might call not the reasons, but maybe so-called reasons that United States would like to use against Iran, some kind of operational requirements at the beginning. There are some, as you highlighted right now, there are some protests on the streets of Iran. The response to the crackdown of the protests is very much important for Trump. Trump previously established a red line warning that if any kind of mass executions were carried out by the regime, then he would order some operations to stop that kind of mass executions. That would highlight that there is a kind of problematic signal within the minds of Washington elites saying that the current regime in Tehran is not valid for them, and they would like to take out that regime from power by using the protesters on the street.
Can we say that they take this situation as an opportunity because Israel always had a plan to attack Iran? They want to change the regime in Iran, but the regime change is not so much important for the United States. When we analyze the US national security strategy, we see that the security of Israel is one of the priorities for the United States. However, United States does not want a conflict in the Middle East, although US has defined Iran as one of the destabilizing factors in the Middle East. The US perspective and the Israeli perspective seems like a bit different. the protests in the Iran is used as a pretext for an operation. They want to take this as an opportunity. However, if the protests haven't taken place, Israel would have already started an operation with the support of the US. Do you agree with this?
If we go back, the 30 operations conducted by Israel in mid-June 2025, Netanyahu would like to have the regime changed by forcing some of the mainly air operations from Israel to Iranian territories. And in the meantime, some of the protesters, if they could, might force the Iranian regime to change, but it didn't happen. In the meantime, Trump, mentioned about Washington's policy as saying that we don't want any kind of regime. Our priority is mainly to compel or force Tehran to admit some of the nuclear deals, some of the like removal of enriched uranium or caps on missile stockpiles, and to end supporting proxy groupings mainly nearby Israel. So those kind of things were main objectives of U.S. government at that time. But through the months, at the end of 2025, I think Netanyahu convinced Trump a little bit about changing of regime in Tehran. There is a kind of potential for regime change for the time being. And maybe from now on, Trump could openly say that I would like to change the regime, but how could it be happen? We don't know. The protesters might be, if there would be some mass murders done by the current Tehran regime, could be a kind of trigger for the U.S. Forces to conduct operations against the Iranian territory. But up to now, as far as we know, there are no mass operations against the protesters.
Okay, and there are also negotiations taking place between the United States and Iranian officials, maybe not formally being carried out,
Yeah.
but there are reports that they negotiate. And there were some reports that the United States has some demands from Iran. If those demands are met, US will not launch an operation. As we know, one of them is the nuclear issue, the
Yes.
ending the enrichment of uranium, and the second one is the ballistic missiles, the ending of production of ballistic missiles. And there is also another non-verified report saying that it may also be connected to the oil issue. As you know, President Trump is very much interested with natural resources, and he also wants to have some degree of connection and agreement with Iran, like a trade partnership to establish a control maybe over Iran's oil resources.
You are right, but before stepping up those, maybe we should talk about also some of the proxies like Houthis or Hezbollah, to some extent Hamas, Iranian-backed militias could trigger U.S. operations as well, because especially Israel would like to keep an eye on those kind of proxies. Still, they have some power, although lessening power of Hamas and Hezbollah right now. But nobody knows. Maybe in the future, Hezbollah can again empower itself by getting some support from the Iranian current regime. That's the current fear of Israeli governments, or they would like to talk about these kind of things to get the support of Congress and the U.S. government as well. But I think at the end of the day, the Trump administration is very much serious about an attack against Iran. They had the marine and air power assets nearby, Gulf states and Indian Sea, mainly in the responsibility of CENTCOM. What I would like to say that, there are some new assets, especially USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. It has lots of power on it itself, especially 60 to 75 fighter jets. So if US would like to start an air operations, they need this kind of assets because there are some other air assets mainly located in Arabian countries, but most of them hesitating about U.S. powers within their territories against Iran. They have some fears. I would like to talk about those kind of things later on, if I may.
We will come to the operations, but before that, let's also talk on the impact of this on the region and the position of Russia and China. China is the main importer of the Iranian oil. Iranians can only sell it to China because there are sanctions imposed on Iran. So how will this situation impact the region? Because the regional countries are opposing this operation and they are trying to convince the United States not to take any military action.
There are lots of problematic issues. If any kind of attack conducted by the USA against Iran, maybe we can start from United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. They don't want to host any kind of attack, I would say. Saudi Arabia would like to have a kind of global vision, mainly economically. So they would like to normalize their relationship with Iran. If there would be any kind of war, and within that war, if Riyadh would support the USA or Israel, then they might have no future for their Vision 2030. So maybe they would like to also keep the oil prices a little bit lesser. Right now, I think the barrel of petroleum is around $65. But in case of a war, perhaps then there might be some skyrocketing of the prices. Some say around $200 per barrel, which is very high. And those, economies mainly depending on this kind of price fluctuations of petroleum. So they would like to keep on some reasonable prices. In the meantime, also the Trump administration would like to have some lesser dollars paid per barrel. That could be said to the United Arab Emirates as well. But for Qatar, it's a little bit problematic because, CENTCOM headquarters is located in Qatar. So if there would be any kind of operations against Iran, then CENTCOM would be the main player for command and control, and they have lots of power at hand. So they would like to use that power against Iran without supporting of Qatar is almost impossible. And also they have allotted airbase, and within that airbase, around 10,000 military personnel of the USA located, and those military personnel, including some air power assets, are needed against Iran. So Qatar would like to say no, but mostly I would say impossible. For the Iraq,
Go on, please.
for the Iraq, Iraq have some problems against Iran, current Iran, and mainly USA. What kind of problems? Mainly political. There's a prime minister issue right now, and this Shia allocated post should be filled but currently the president of Iraq also, I would say that that's empty as well. Okay, so in the meantime, those Shia population of Iraq don't like have any kind of operations against Iran because they have some connections in thought and in religion. That's understandable. But in the meantime, also, Hashd al-Shabi, the Shia militia, that they have some strong connections with Tehran. In case of operations conducted by the USA against Iran, they said they would like to support Iran.
Okay.
For Turkey, as a NATO ally, we don't like to have any kind of operations against Iran. We would like to have a diplomatic option would be at first hand. So there shouldn't be any kind of external interventions because external forces cannot bring peace to any kind of country. So Turkey would like to have, though Tehran should find a way for the protesters, for the economy, and for the foreign military forces. So that's Tehran's main issue. But if any kind of intervention could worsen the situation, that's our main highlight against Washington. And secondly, if Iran had any kind of war within itself or outside from the USA and together with the UK and Israel, then there might be some refugee wave coming from Iran to Turkish territory. Then we don't know how many, maybe 2 to 3 million Iranian people across the border and would like to get some support from the Turkish people and Turkish government as well. So that would be a problematic issue for Turkish economy and for the social life of Turkey.
So, as you said that there are spillover effects
Exactly.
in case of an operation. It seems like that the US operation is imminent, depending on a possible agreement or disagreement with Iran. If US operates, what type of operation will it be? What will be the major strategy of the United States military operation?
Other than diplomatic efforts, I think the U.S. would like to first of all show of force, just knocking the door of Iranian soil through the Strait of Hormuz, maybe. So especially, as we have seen on the 12-day operations conducted by Israel, they need a kind of silent air war. What I would like to emphasize on this, Iran still has some parts of air defense integration system up to now. So they would like to suppress those available ballistic missile or air defense radars by using some F-35 stealth fighters and some of the seed or suppression enemy air defense type of fighters like F-18 bombers and some of the F-15s, if they could find or by the support of Israel Air Force, they have the F-15 I type of aircraft. In the meantime, they have also the F-35s and F-16s, especially empowered by Israel by adding some more electronic warfare capabilities. So by accumulating those kind of assets into the CENTCOM arena, they would like to blockade most probably the Strait of Hormuz initially. By blockading that strait, they could hinder the sale of petroleum to other states, mainly, China. China is the main buyer of Iranian petroleum products. So in this case, on the streets, people are talking about the economical problems that they are enduring through the months. So without selling of petroleum products, Iran government might have lots of problems on the street as well. So initially, maybe instead of using directly power against Iranian soil, maybe US would like to start some blockading of Strait of Hormuz, I would say. So they need this for this kind of operations, lots of ships, some marine assets, some air assets, especially aircraft carriers that they would like to locate nearby Gulf states or Strait of Hormuz. So in this position, Trump is mainly focusing on talking to the regime to make them or to compel them to negotiate about, as we talked earlier, about the ballistic missiles, enrichment of nuclear or uranium facilities, and also some of the sanctions, mainly enforced Iran not to support Russia for the Ukrainian war as well. Also, some of the blackmailing with the petroleum products with China. What I mean, China getting the petroleum products not officially, but using some backdoor policy or backdoor channels. So mainly, U.S. would like to keep an eye on all of the channel of petroleum traffic by using petrodollar policy. I mean, with not bartering system, but the dollar system that is hindering the U.S. policy throughout the world. So they would like to keep an eye on this kind of economical sanctions as well. But if we are talking about real air operations, first of all, they need to have a kind of cyber warfare initially, and some jamming of space assets mainly could be used by Iranian forces on the ground, like some blinding operations of a GPS, some of the other operations like paralyzing Iranian military communication grids and lines, a national power system, causing confusion before the first missile hits. Yeah. So they need to prepare the operational area for the further air operations. Secondly, they have some assets mainly located at the USS Abraham Lincoln F-35C stealth aircraft, and also they have some B-2 Spirits mainly located at Diego Garcia, which is an island of the UK, and also from the mainland of the USA. Those kind of aircraft can take off and bomb anywhere in the world by the support of air-to-air refueling system. So they would like to, first of all, operate or make some air-to-ground operations against those air defense radar and ballistic missile radar systems. So to make it happen, they need to use those stealth assets, and also the UK has some Eurofighter Typhoons located in Cyprus, Akrotiri. So they have Storm Shadow type of missiles. They can also support the US forces by using this kind of Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft. And finally, they have some Tomahawk missiles can be launched from destroyers and some frigates, and also some of the submarines as well. And also those kind of missiles are the main player for the Marine Force of US. In the meantime, the Israeli Air Force SS could be used together with the US Air Operations SS as well, including F-15 IRAM and F-35 other aircraft, and also some of the F-16s as well. So mainly they would like to use some bunker buster type of bombs, because as we know, maybe we can talk about what Iran could do against these kind of attacks could be done or conducted by the coalition forces. They have the air defense system, but they don't have the fighter jets attend currently, I mean, the Iranian Air Force. So mainly, as far as I've read through the media, open media, saying that Iranian air defense systems mainly buried down as much as possible through the big mountains, and they would like to mobilize those ballistic missile launchers depending on the requirements. In case any kind of air operations conducted against Iran, then they would like to use ballistic missiles depending on the threat condition. But as we have seen on the 12-day operations, Iran would like to keep an eye on its ballistic missile capabilities, some air defense radar systems, including Bavar 373 air defense system, which is the equivalent system of S-300, but most upgraded version of that one. Also, they bought some of the parts of S-400 from Russia, and most probably they have some new systems of S-400. Maybe they can use against the U.S. forces as well. But in any case, right now they have conducted some ballistic missile operations, some cruise missile operations against Israeli territory during the 12-day operations. Mainly those missiles did not hit as required on the Israeli targets, I would say. But in general, Israel got the support of the U.S. Military assets on the ground and at sea, and also some Jordanian air defense systems also supported together with the UK systems. So altogether, they have defended their territory, Israeli territory, against the Iranian missiles. But on the other hand, 83% of the missiles intercepted, but 17% of those missiles hit somewhere within the territory of Israel. But especially the Fatah 1 and Fatah 2 hypersonic glide vehicle or missiles were the main problem for Israeli air defense system at that time. And right now, as far as I follow, Iranian air defense system or the attack forces also put some focus on having these kind of ballistic missile, I mean the hypersonic glide vehicle systems to use against any kind of outsiders, let's say, maybe against Israel or other parts of U.S. forces, maybe located in Qatar or whatever. So they have right now some much upgraded version of hypersonic glide vehicles. So those vehicles actually did a great job during the 12-day war.
Do you
They
think
hit,
that Iran will be able to do it again? Can Iran
yeah,
hit Israeli territory with the hypersonic missiles this time?
that's my expectation, because right now they have some experience on the ground, and they have they would like to use that experience, especially those hypersonic missiles, against any kind of threat that they would like to use power. Especially, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar could be a target for Iran. So for the right time being, the U.S. has the Patriot system or theater high altitude air defense system. Those type of air defense systems cannot fully intercept these kind of missiles. They don't have that kind of ability or the capability to conduct against any kind of air defense operations for these kind of hypersonic glide vehicles. So they might have some power against the U.S. forces that could use force against Iran. That's a kind of, I think,
I want also
the U.S. might have some problems for the time being.
As part of the operations, I want to also discuss 2 points. One of them is the
Yeah.
Strait of Hormuz. There are also some concerns in the US, Israel, and UK that Iran can close the Hormuz Strait. Is Iran capable of doing this? And how
Uh,
can Iran do it?
these revolutionary forces have some types of unmanned naval assets, some small warships, but small fast attack type of crafts equipped with heavy machine guns and some missiles to harass any kind of U.S. warship and some commercial tankers. So they can make some suicide attacks against those kind of assets that would like to use Strait of Hormuz. And also Iran has the sea mines capability. They have arsenal of thousands of naval mines as well. So they could deploy these sea mines rapidly wherever they would like to conduct their operations, mainly against the submarines. That would be a problem for the Iranian defense. This could happen, but this is a kind of dilemma for Iran as well. They would like to sell their petroleum products to mainly China. If they close the Strait of Hormuz, they would cut their hands, I would say. Okay, it's problematic. But in the meantime, if something happens within the Strait of Hormuz, as I said earlier, the price of petroleum products, $200 per barrel, I would say. So that's a kind of big crisis for the world economy as well.
We haven't spoken about Russia and China's support to Iran. How likely is a possible support from China and Iran in case of a military operation to Iran?
For the Russian side, they don't have a big war with the USA. And China is not ready any kind of World War III scenario. If that would happen, that would be in the Pacific arena, but in the future, I would say. Uh, Russia would like to support Iran because Iran supported Russia at the Ukrainian war. Uh, so they would like to sell, as we talked earlier, some Sukhoi 35 aircraft, but they need those aircraft for their own purposes. That's a problematic relationship. They need some more time to support Iran. And in the meantime, they need to provide some S-400 air defense systems to Iran air defenses. Unfortunately, they need those systems in their soil as well. So whatever Iran is demanding from Russia, from the military-wise or military perspective, is a little problematic for Russian defense industry because initially they need to empower their own army on the ground, fighting against the Ukrainian army. Maybe they would provide some kind of GPS jamming or spoofing assets to Iran against using some air assets of USA and Israel, but might be helpful, but it is not a kind of a game changer asset. And for the China, for the support of Iranian economy and also some military assets of Iran, like dual usage of some industrial items, they could provide some microchips, some guidance systems, some drone parts, and some other things that could be helpful for Iranian defense system, so they could keep that kind of traffic up and running for Iran. That could be something, but that could not save Iranians' life if there would be any kind of USA air attack in the future.
Okay.
And also, we had had seen a kind of military exercise in between Iran, Russia, and China, but it was a kind of show of force in Indian Sea, mainly Strait of Hormuz. If Russia and China keep their vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, maybe those assets could provide a kind of safe haven for the Iranian ships as well against any kind of U.S. attack. But I don't know whether they would like to keep them over there or not. We will see if the war erupts.
Okay, I hope that the war does not start and US and Iran agrees peacefully on the dispute. In this case, we know that Iran is not a direct threat to the United States, but it is a threat maybe to Israel, so as Israel is a threat to Iran. However, Israel's security is a primary strategic objective for the United States in the Middle East, and this is main reason why the United States plans to attack Iran. In that case, if it happens, it will have severe impact in the region. It will be another destabilizing situation in the Middle East, and the regional countries will be heavily affected from this. I hope this war can be avoided and the problems, disputes can be resolved peacefully. General, thank you very much for taking your time and sharing your very insightful views with us on the channel. I hope to see you again in our future programs.
Thank you a lot. There is one point maybe we should highlight as well. There is a kind of madman theory. This is the United States, Trump. Trump plays the role of a madman. Okay, so he would like to convince his rational adversaries, I would say Russia and China, that the U.S. president is volatile, irrational, and willing to use disproportionate force, even nuclear weapons, if provoked. So we have a madman, Trump, and this Trump could play anything he wants, as we have seen up to now. That's mainly right now, as you have highlighted, the current U.S. defense policy. We will see how it works. Thanks a lot. See you, if possible, at another next episode of your YouTube channel.
Thank you very much.